I just want to talk to you. You were ringside for HBO watching Danny Garcia and Amir Khan. There have been one or two calls over here for Amir Khan to retire. I just want you to give us your view as one of the world's great trainers about Amir Khan and his future.
I think his future is still good. It's really, he's taken a lot of punishment in such a short period of time in a career that's been very successful in a lot of ways and very disappointing in a lot of ways, too, to the fans. And I was a big, diehard Amir Khan fan when he first turned professional. And the recent fights, as I told him when I was interviewing him in the room the day before the fight, that I had been somewhat let down in the way he had progressed because he'd been more running in and pushing his punches and, and not fighting in a professional manner. But for this fight, I thought he fought a good fight. I mean, he lost the fight, and everyone is now criticizing what he did right or did wrong. I thought he fought a good fight. He got caught in an exchange, whereas they both were throwing punches, and the other guy actually had his head down towards the floor, and just a looping punch that they ended up landing. And Amir never got a chance to fully recuperate. I mean, he seemed to have lost his equilibrium and his ability to control his legs. But I was so impressed with the fact that even in that damaged condition, he fought almost another 3 minutes or 4 minutes. He gave an unbelievable diehard action, trying to still, salvage victory. And when he went down the last time, if they hadn't stopped it, he would have came back and fought all the way again. So I was impressed with him. I don't think he did anything really wrong. He just got caught. Everyone there is trying to create, well, he did this wrong. No, he just got caught. He was on his way to victory, and it could have been he that landed the punch. And I just think there's certain things he needs to work on. I didn't see him do anything basically that wrong in the fight. He's always seemed to be, when I see Amir Khan in a lot of fights, I still see him always like getting hit with club and right hands and his body swaying to his right. And just the image I have of him trying to hold on, trying to survive, in particular from club and right hands. And I think he needs to work on just working on rolling the shoulders and learning how to take a better defensive right hands, but not to put too much emphasis on what he did wrong in this last fight, because I didn't think he did anything necessarily wrong.
Manny, that's a great insight and great advice as well. We appreciate you joining us on Box Nation tonight. Thanks very much indeed.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, a couple of final questions for you before you leave us, Don. Amir Khan, should he carry on?
Most definitely, for a lot of reasons.
Okay, quick reasons why he should?
He's a brilliant ambassador for boxing. He's a brilliant boxer, and he got caught. This is the nature of the game we're in. He was letting his hands go, and the other guy caught him. It happens.
And the guests keep flowing, thick and fast. Ashley is with us. Ashley Theophane, how are you, pal?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. We're tinkering away nicely in here. And listen, you are here for a very, very good reason, because Danny Garcia, the man who blew Amir Khan away, you gave him a decent argument. Split decision, wasn't it, a few years ago? Tell us about it.
It was 2 years ago. It was on the ESPN show, and I basically just boxed him. That's why I think that Amir went wrong. I boxed him. And, a lot of folks thought that I won. I lost a split decision. Like, one judge thought I won and two thought that Danny won by a round. So, it was a good fight.
El Paso, Texas, wasn't it? I believe you thought. And to get one judge's verdict there, that must be an achievement. But were you surprised what happened to Amir then in Las Vegas on Saturday night?
I thought that Amir would win because he had all the attributes. He has speed, skill, he's got quick feet. But he just didn't use them. He stood in front of him, and that's what Danny likes, is a guy to stand in front of him, and that's where he went wrong.
Did he get lucky, Danny?
I don't think he got lucky, because it's obvious he's knocked out a lot of guys and he's dropped a lot of guys because he hits hard, but I just think that Amir Khan's game plan was the wrong game plan.
Yeah. And Steve, when you heard about that and you saw what had happened, and it brought back bad memories for me of Amir, basically when he goes down and gets up, not really being able to what to do, not having a game plan.
Yeah, it's interesting, Jim. On the way to Upton Park Saturday, we was in the car, we were driving there with David Price, and we were talking about Amir's fight, and then myself, Paul Smith and David all saying he'd win. And then David, I think, Price, he turned around and said, you know what his problem is? He thinks he's in the amateurs when he gets hit. He knows he's been hit in the amateurs, he's lost a point, and he wants to win that point back even quicker. And that's the sort of thing a boxer would, I remember you can identify what Price he said there, and that was his point, and Amir has still got that. Every time he gets hit, instead of thinking, I'll go for a walk for a round, he has to win the point back. Like in the amateurs, where you only have 3 rounds to turn a fight around.
Yeah. You think that's fair, Ashley?
Well, I think he had 12 rounds. He didn't have to go at him. He should have used his legs and kept his hands up. His defense was terrible. It was terrible, yeah. So he has to work on these things.
First couple of rounds, that's exactly what he did, wasn't it?
He did, and then he said, yeah, I've got him, and he started to go at him, and that's when like Danny was like, all right, cool, and then he caught him with one, and that's what it takes, is one shot.
Yeah, the other thing of Amir, and some people disagree, others do, since it happens in 2004, he's been at it non-stop. Since 2007, which is 5 years ago this month, actually, when he fought Woody Limon, he's been non-stop in title fights. Maybe he needs that rest for just... Like David Hayward last week said on Box Nation, when he was retired because he wasn't thinking boxing for 3 months. He wasn't having to get up in the morning. He wasn't having to do this. And I certainly don't think Amir should retire by any stretch of the imagination. It's madness for that. But maybe just have that break, 3 months, not even thinking about boxing, what he can eat and what he can do. Because he's been on the go non-stop since Athens.
He's only 25. He's only 25. So if he did take out 3 months or even 6, it's not going to hurt his career. He's been, what, a 2-time world champ. You know, he's going to come back.
It's worth pointing one thing out here. I think Carl Froch was quoted on the BBC website saying, "I am telling Amir Khan to retire." I heard him on the radio today. That's not what he said, and he made it he was very annoyed about that. Understandably so. He said, "If I was in Amir Khan's position, I would retire." He didn't tell Amir to retire.
Right,
Amir got the raving up about it in Las Vegas and a pop back.
And he will, because there is a bit of history between them. You know, Carl has had a pop at him before, and the pops have gone back. So when that was said, when Carl said that, I can see why Amir got pretty angry. But anyone who says Amir should retire, we're not talking. I mean, you've lost a few fights and bounced back. If you must probably lost the fact that people said, well, you should go away now. You know, you would have.
Well, if you look at Johnny Nelson, he lost 12 fights before he won the world title. So imagine that he would have had the same critics.
We're talking a 25-year-old boy, Jim, not a 35-year-old.
But I think that there is another thing to it, though, in that we mentioned how hard the fights have been, particularly over the last year, and over there, Golden Boy, they chuck them in. They're not looking after him. And they have been hard fights and real big shots that Amir's been taking. Went to hospital again on Saturday night.
Yeah, they have been hard fights, and that's one other reason for needing a rest. There's also not just to get boxing out of the system, but to get just have a complete rest from boxing, the sparring. I mean, they're hard fights. When you think Medina, Peterson, you know, the other night, they're tough. Garcia, they're tough fights to have. And, you know, and he was hurting all of them. Tough fights, and that's why the rest were doing. And Golden Boy aren't scared of throwing him. We've seen that for Victor Ortiz, and I wouldn't be surprised that in early next year we saw that fight when he does come back. It's a sink or swim fight for both fighters.
Yeah, well, it would be a good fight with Amir Khan and like Ortiz. That would be a great fight, I think.
Love that.
Yeah,
there's history there as well, because Amir beat him in the Junior Olympics.
In the meantime, he's probably going to have a decent rest. So let's have a word with a fellow who was ringside, a world champion at the moment, Paulie Malignaggi, working for BBC Radio ringside in Las Vegas. Hi, Paulie. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. Always a pleasure.
Now, where do you stand in the Amir Khan debate? As someone who's been in the ring, of course, with Amir, you never know, you might get in the ring with him once again. Do you feel he should give up boxing?
You know, everybody's going to become an expert in situations like this, but let's be honest. I mean, the kid is 25 years old, and he's had a successful career thus far. And any competitor, I mean, if anybody really in his shoes, would they really retire? I mean, even the people that are telling him to retire, if they were in his shoes, we all know they would not retire. Amir is 25. He's a big competitor. I'm sure he feels he has unfinished business. Will he be the same? You know, I don't know. It's on him. You know, I feel he's young enough to come back from this, but you know, you don't retire at 25 years old when you've been as successful as Amir Khan. There's still things to achieve, money to be made. He's not going to retire.
I think it's what I said earlier on. I don't know if you heard that there are people who are a bit fearful of the amount of physical punishment that Amir has taken inside that ring, particularly in the last 12 months, Paulie.
Yeah, I do think he should be rubbed back a little bit more carefully. I mean, you can't just keep throwing him into the lines then, because you know, he does give us all exciting fights, and he makes for a crowd-pleasing, entertaining style, even though you wouldn't think it a lot of times, because he's got the ability not to do that. But he ends up being in entertaining fights. He's starting to remind me a lot of Terry Norris, who was incredibly talented, but you blink and he would be knocked out. You know what I'm saying? So you'd never knew which way it would go. But a fighter like that brings a lot of excitement and a lot of things to the table.
He brings a lot of excitement, but as any opponent going into the ring with Amir Khan must believe, I mean, Garcia lost the first couple of rounds very, very clearly, must believe, I hit this fellow on the chin, it's my fight.
Yeah, but it's more than just knocking someone out. Someone like Garcia, and I think I'm sure that Amir didn't just think he would show up, hit Danny Garcia on the chin, and Danny Garcia would go away. And I'm sure he had to realize Garcia is a high-level fighter, and even if he hits him on the chin, he's going to be resilient himself. One thing I want to mention. Vladimir Klitschko was KO'd at least a couple of times early in his career, and he was probably around the same age as Amir, maybe a little older. And if you would have told him to retire at that time, he wouldn't have had the success he's had throughout his whole career now. I mean, Vladimir Klitschko has not lost a fight in God only knows how long, but he learned from a lot of those KO losses he had.
Do you think another thing that he should perhaps learn, if he can, at this stage of his career, is how to survive, how to hang around in a boxing ring once he has been tagged?
Yeah, the thing with Amir is he I think sometimes he bites off more than he can chew. He has the ability to be a better thinker. Sometimes he mistakes the situation and basically puts himself more at risk than he should. It's a situation he got himself in the other night. I thought he probably he had a live guy in front of him in Danny Garcia, and he probably could have waited a little bit before he got a little aggressive. And that's not to say he didn't box a beautiful fight. I thought in the first couple of rounds he boxed amazing, and I think the same thing that let us praise him also got him knocked out. I mean, the way he was boxing in the second round, he was boxing in the third round when he got clipped and got dropped hard. So the same reasons we were praising him was also the same reason we're criticizing him now. How many times do you see a guy, like I take a lot of criticism a lot of times if I'll be dominating an opponent and people will say, oh, Malignaggi has no killer instinct. Malignaggi has no killer instinct. He's just content to keep outboxing guys. Amir goes for the killer instinct. He feels once he touches you, then he can go for the power shots and try to stop you. But a lot of times you have to take your time in there, and that's what a lot of the critics don't understand. When they criticize a guy for not having a killer instinct, sometimes you have to marinate a guy for a few rounds before you go to take him out. I feel Amir could have been slightly more patient, but again, that's what makes him exciting, and that's what also makes fans love him.
You're not that different in weights, of course, are you? Would you fancy a fight, perhaps for your world title with Amir down the line?
It's always a possibility. We fought a couple of years ago, and there's always a possibility of a rematch. But if I was Amir Khan's team, I would bring him back at one or two lesser fights before going even after a guy like me. I think Amir has been in with a lot of tough opponents in his career, and he's beaten plenty of good opponents as well. People were talking about the losses, but let's not forget Amir Khan has some very solid wins in his career. But it's just, even the wins that he's had, some of them, like the Marcos Maidana fight, was a tough, grueling fight. I think Amir could take a step back and could use a couple of lesser fights, maybe even at home, where he's more appreciated by fans. Maybe it will remind him that people still love him if he fights in front of his fans.
Sure.
And maybe gain that confidence back. There's plenty of time for it. There's plenty of time for him to get back in the ring with killers.
So,
you don't have to do it right away. He's not an aging fighter where it's like, oh, let's milk the last money out of him because he's on the way out. This is a 25-year-old kid.
Just
if
one
you take
last.
your time bringing it back, he will be back.
Sorry to interrupt you, Paulie. One last question for you. You probably wouldn't fancy fighting the Paulie Malignaggi who won that world title against the odds over in the Ukraine that we showed here on Box Nation. But just one thing I want you to answer. Ricky Hatton, he has been suggested as an opponent for you. Is that realistic?
I don't know how realistic it is. I think it's up to Ricky. I think Ricky's earned the respect of everyone, and I think he's earned the right to make his own decision on whether he's going to come back or not. Obviously, I would love the fight. Anytime you get a chance to avenge a loss, it's something you crave, and as a competitor, I would love the fight. But if Ricky doesn't come back, that he's got the right to make that decision as well. But I guess we'll wait on him.
Paulie Malignaggi, it's very enjoyable seeing you fight. It's always very, very enjoyable to talk to you on Box Nation. Thanks for your time from Las Vegas.
Thanks, mate. Always a pleasure. Cheers.
Take care now.